ladies and gentlemen, I am the CHALL, your YouTube Sporting Network, and today we are going to be talking about the latest injury update from the club. Now, it doesn't sound great. Now, before we get started, make sure you do like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell to know this YouTube video, and for now, let's get into the story. Starting with Jon Taylor, it's not a good one. So, Jon Taylor will be out for at least a couple of months after suffering a fresh injury setback. Now, an ankle injury restricted the 29-year-old to just 3 appearances last season, and he'll now miss the start of the new campaign. Now, Jon Taylor apparently has pulled his quad in training the other day. It's quite a bad one, so Jon will be missing for at least a couple of months. We're gutted for him. He was just getting to a level where he was getting up to speed and was training well. Now, he played 45 minutes in Doncaster's first pre-season friendly against Armthorpe and trained throughout the following week before noticing the issue. It turned out he's got a thigh strain that's going to be quite a long one, recovery-wise. The player himself is said to be gutted with the news. He says he's not really in that much pain, but the scan says it's quite a bad one. Now, sometimes these things happen. We have been out for such a long time and you start kicking balls again on a daily basis and training at a high intensity. We'll get around him and make sure he comes back in a couple of months' time raring to go and ready. Now, McSheffrey also confirmed that Josh Andrews has also picked up a quad injury in training. He should be back fit within 7 to 10 days, apparently. Now, there's also encouraging news on Tom Anderson. The club captain has not played since December and, like Taylor, suffered a fresh setback in pre-season. Last week it was revealed he'll miss the first game of the campaign. Now, McSheffrey says that Tom's hopeful he'll be back not too far into the season, a few games in hopefully. It's just really how he can cope with it and handle the pain threshold because he don't want to do surgery on it. It's a bit of a complicated one, but they feel if it can be managed without surgery, so that is what we'll do. Now, obviously, it's going to be very interesting to see how these injuries develop, but let's share my thoughts on all of those injuries. Taylor, Andrews, and Anderson. Let's talk about them in a bit more detail. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. That is the latest updates on the injury front. Let's start off with Anderson first. Let's start off with the positive news. So Anderson, hopefully, will be back a few games into the season, so it won't be as long as we thought. We're getting an actual diagnostic on it now. So he will miss Bradford, he will miss the first couple of games, first few games of the season, but he should be back. So I would probably say at this stage he'll be back maybe end of August, start of September. That's my sort of prediction on that one. Andrews should be fit within 7 to 10 days, so fingers crossed that is a good sign. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that means he'll be back ready to feature maybe second game of the season, if not the first. So, at least on the bench anyway, so we will see. Now, obviously, the big disappointment is Jon Taylor. He will be out for another couple of months, which is obviously a shame. This is where the club learned from their mistakes from last year. Now, if you remember last year, we got a bunch of injuries in pre-season. We didn't have a successful pre-season at times. We had a lot of disruptions, COVID, injuries, etc. And we basically panic-buyed. Apart from Tommy Rowe, Ben Close, and maybe Carl Noyle, we panic-buyed for the rest of the window, in my opinion. Joe Dadu, Jordi Awula, some of the loanees like Thiago Chaker. I think Dahlberg did well in the 6 months that he was here at times, but it's still, there's something about that. I think Vilka especially was panic, absolute was panic. Agard for me, at the time, I didn't think it was a panic buy at the time, back in January, but now when you look at reports that he could be moving on to Hartlepool, you sort of think, well, is it another failed project? So there were signings last season in the summer and January that were very, very panic-based because we didn't have a lot of money in the bank and we basically didn't know what we were doing. We blew all our money on the first couple of signings and then panic buy for the rest of the window. This is where the club learned from mistakes. The first 3 signings, I'm not going to count the loanee because I've not seen much of the loanee, so I don't know how much of a good thing he'll be. Birmingham fans have rated him. Didn't do too well at Rochdale, but Birmingham fans still rate him somewhat. So we'll see what Andrews does. But definitely the permanent signings are very good rated. Miller, well, some Walsall fans don't like him, but I think if you put him in a pressing formation like we're scheduled to do, he'll thrive. Molineux, League One interest from Bristol Rovers, from MK Dons. We got our man. We got our top target. He was the top target this summer of all positions. He was the top target. We got our man. Biggins, midfielder, League 2 experience, League 1 experience, non-league experience, in there. Box to box, permanent deal, sorted. That's 3 positions already. And I know a lot of people have been spouting on social media this week about we've needed a left back for 12 months and we've needed another winger for like a good 7 months or whatever. I'm going to allow the club time. I'm going to allow the club time. We're not going to bring in Kieran Dunn. That has been announced now. We're not going to bring in Kieran Dunn. We just need a different type of left back, apparently. We've got this youngster on trial, James Maxwell, who used to be at Rangers, put up some decent stats on loan at United in the Scottish Championship. So it seems like maybe James Maxwell could be the solution. Development player, still room to grow. Very good stats from the previous season in the Scottish Championship, which is around League 1, League 2 level in England. So it's nothing different, really. Because if you think about it, Scottish Premiership is like equal to the Premier League / Championship in England. Scottish Championship's like League 1 level. So we're sort of calling it like that. So for me, I think James Maxwell would be a good left-back option. And I know a lot of people are like, well, we need experience in that position. We need experience in that position. I agree. I agree we need experience in that position. But if you've got someone like James Maxwell who's got a ton of room to grow, who's putting up great numbers already, I'd actually argue just bringing a loanee as backup and you've got your left-back's position sorted for the long term. A loanee for a season, just in case we need that cover. You've got Freddie Allen in the youth academy anyway to offer that pathway from the youth to the senior team. So if you need a third choice, you've got Freddie Allen to use from the youth. And then you've got your first teamer, which, if it's James Maxwell from his trial period, I'd be confident of that because his stats are pretty good. And I think the club could utilise Maxwell better than Rangers. I think he would have a better shot of first team football with us than he would do staying at Rangers. So, for me, I think if Maxwell's going to be our first team left back, Aloni is back up, and then if we need a third choice, we can just bring Freddie Allen in from the youth academy and offer that pathway already. I'd be fine with that. I'd be absolutely fine with that. Now, winger, I think we do need to bring in another winger, or 2 maybe. Maybe Aloni and a permanent. Or 2 permanents, maybe even 2 permanents. Obviously, we've got a winger on trial, who was on trial in the Spennymoor match, Carl Hurst from Birmingham City's under-23s. I won't lie to you, I've seen some stats of this guy. Not too bad. The stats aren't too bad. I don't know if he has any other interest from anywhere else. Birmingham fans, comment down below what you think of him. But for me, I don't know. I think Carl Hurst would be a good young development option to have, and I think it's great having that young development option. Barlow and Hurst could be sort of development players. Molineu's your straight up first teamer. Tommy Rowe's your straight up first teamer. If he's not in the midfield, he's on the wing. So, you know, you're going to need at least a couple of wingers now that we've got Taylor out for 2 months. So, for me, I think it's worth having a look at a couple of wingers. Maybe both of them permanent deals. But what I don't want to happen, and this is what I mean from learning from the mistakes of last season and the season before that and things like that, panic buying and bringing in temporary acquisitions. I don't want to see us reach that 5 loan mark just because of these injuries. I don't want to see this used as an excuse to bring in 5 loans again. That can't be the case. Maximum I'll allow is 3. 4, I'd have my issues about it, but I wouldn't be as angry as if it would be if it was 5 or 6 or 7. I'd like to keep it to 3 if we can, and then the rest of them be permanent deals. That would be the way I would move forward, so we're not over-relying on loans. Because if we bring in 5, 6, 7 loans, and we start using the excuse of, oh, we've had loads and loads of injuries, that's why we've had to do it, that was the excuse you used last year. So, for me, we've just got to learn from excuses, learn from mistakes, and just stick to our original plan. Just because injuries have come up doesn't mean we have to change our plan and bring in 5, 6 loanees. Stick to the plan. Bring in the permanents, couple more loanees, stick it to 3 maybe, at best, 2 or 3 at best, rest of them permanents, and just go from there. Just go from there. Because then, the less loanees you have, the more longer term permanent squad you've got. That is where I stand anyway. If it's 5, 6 loanees again, I'm going to be angry. If it's 3, maybe 4, I'll accept it. But I'll only judge our business overall at the end of the window. I am planning to do like an overall deadline day summary again this year. I'm going to rate each signing out of 10 on paper and then rate the overall business out of 10 and the outs as well. So stay tuned for that. But I'm going to hold off my reservations overall until the end of the window, until the window's shut, it's done, it's dusted. Fingers crossed I'll be going live on deadline day, hopefully. I really do hope you stick around for that, fingers crossed. It's still a few weeks away. It's still like, what, 49 days away from the end of the window. So we've still got a lot of time to bring in players. We've just got to give the club time. So I'm going to wait until the end of the window before judging it officially overall as a window. And we'll see. But put it this way, if we bring in 5, 6 loanees and panic buy a couple of players on deadline day and they're stuck in their Colchester gear in a Rovers dressing room or whatever, basically a repeat of last season deadline day, I'm going to call it out. And I'm going to call it out and not use injuries as an excuse. So that would be my preference anyway. But I've not seen much evidence that makes me panic at the minute, because it's a new structure. We're giving the club time. Well, some of us are giving the club time. Others aren't. That's their opinion. They're entitled to it. But I'm going to wait until the end of the window before I judge it anyway. So there we are, guys. That's it for this video. Make sure you do stay tuned for more content. Please do like, comment, subscribe. Click the notification bell to never miss YouTube video. And for now, I am the CHALL, your Rovers fan and YouTube Sporting Network. Keep living the Rovers life. And that, my friends, is full time. Rovers till I die. I'll see you in the next video.